What's going on, muscle monsters? Alain Gonzalez here, and in this video I'm going to give you 6 ways to build muscle with light weight. Now, you guys know I'm a huge advocate of heavy training, right? Focusing on strength, because progressive overload is in fact the main pathway by which we build muscle, right? We introduce new stimulus. Our body adapts by building more muscle so that it can handle that stimulus, and we continue growing that way. But this doesn't mean that you have to lift heavy in order to build muscle. As long as we are above about 55% of our 1 rep max, then we can build muscle. So what I'm going to give you again is just 6 things you can do to ensure that you are still gradually increasing the load, right? Progressive overload, without just slapping more weight onto the bar. If you are someone who's been training for a while, then you know that there will come a point in time where adding more weight to the bar is just not a possibility, or it just takes too long. The first thing is adding more reps. Okay, say for example you're bench pressing 225 for 10s. Rather than trying to go for 230 for 10s and failing, what you can do is just keep the same 225 and now aim for 12s, and then eventually aim for 15s. This means that the intensity will technically be decreasing, right? Because now if you can do 10 reps and now you can do 15, then it's probably not the same percentage of your 1 rep max anymore. You've probably gotten stronger, but it's still progressive overload. You're still doing more total volume. The next thing you could do is just add more sets. Now, this is only gonna work to a degree, but say right now you're doing 3 sets of 12, right? By simply adding a 4th set of 12, you are now increasing the volume practically effortlessly. Now, what you don't want to do is add sets on top of sets on top of sets, because there is diminishing returns as you add more sets, but it is a viable option. Probably wouldn't go more than 5 or 6 sets, but if you're starting at 3, then you can gradually add sets for progressive overload. We'll also talk about, and we'll talk about this more on number 3 with more frequency, but more weekly sets. Okay, so say for example right now you're doing 3 sets of 12 on Monday and then another 3 sets of 15 on Thursday, right? Now you can do 4 sets of 12 on Monday and 4 sets of 15 on Thursday. More frequency. If you are someone who is, training their chest once a week, say for example you're doing 12 sets of chest on Monday and then not hitting your chest again till the following Monday, right? What you could do is just increase the frequency by which you're hitting your chest. So think about your chest workout for a minute. You start off on the bench press, you're 100% primed, you're giving it your max effort, okay? Then what happens when you do your 4 sets and move on to the next exercise? You're not as potentiated, right? Your chest is more exhausted. Okay, so you're not able to hit 100%, and that just slowly gets worse as the workout goes by, right? By the time you're on your 3rd exercise or your 12th set, right, you're not going to be pushing as much as your chest could possibly push because you are exhausted, right? The chest is not at its 100% potentiation. But say if we took those sets, those 12 sets, and we broke it up into 3 sessions where you're doing 4 sets each session. Well, now every time you go in the gym and hit your chest, right, you are 100% potentiated, which means that if you look at the total volume over the course of the week, even though you still did the same 12 sets, chances are you did more total volume, because now each time that you hit your chest, you're more potentiated. So that's how we can add more frequency to essentially get more volume. On top of that, we know that the more frequently we train a muscle, right, the faster we'll be able to recover, which is going to help us get stronger faster as well. Also, if you're bench pressing 3 times a week instead of once, right, you're going to get better at the bench press, which means that you're going to be able to load it up a lot faster. The next thing we could do if we wanted to is just slower tempo, right? We could slow down the tempo. And the way this works is very simple. Right now, you're probably using a regular tempo, right? You're controlling the bar down, and then you're pushing it right back up. But what we can do is we can add a couple of seconds to the negative. Adding a couple of seconds to the negative while still hitting the same volume is actually more work, right? Because you've put the muscle under tension for a longer period of time. Now, if you have to sacrifice the total volume to do this, it's probably not worth it. However, if you can aim to increase the tempo, right, by slowing it down while still hitting the same volume, then you're essentially doing more work, and this is progressive overload. It's going to take a stronger person to do 5 sets of 10 at 150 pounds with, a slower rep tempo than it would with a faster rep tempo. The next thing is density. Okay, this is essentially where we're doing the same amount of work, but we're doing it in less time. So if you are doing 4 sets of 10 with 225 pounds on the bench, and it takes you, say, for example, 12 minutes to complete, but the next time around it only takes you 11 minutes, then we've increased the density. You are essentially stronger, okay, because you were able to do the same amount of work in less time. This is more density. This is progressive overload, and you will build muscle this way. And then last but not least, we have beyond failure training. And beyond failure training is basically what it sounds like, where you're training past your limit. Good example of this would be rest pause sets, where you are, say, for example, doing, some tricep push downs. You do your 12 reps, then you take a quick 5-second break, and then you crank out as many more as you can. Maybe lower the weight and do a few more, right? You're essentially forcing more reps in. And this is great because it's going to allow you to do more volume without necessarily increasing the amount of weight or even increasing the amount of sets you're doing, right? You can do the same amount of sets, only by adding some rest pause, you'll be increasing the amount of total volume that you did in that workout. Okay, and I'm gonna leave a few more examples of beyond failure training sets in the description below, so you can check those out. Things like supersets, other things of that nature, right? As we said, rest pause. So that's basically it. You can add more reps without sacrificing the weight. You can add more sets to a degree. You can train the muscle more frequently or perform a certain lift more frequently. You can slow down the rep tempo. You can increase the density by doing the same amount of work in less time, or you can start adding beyond failure training. And that's pretty much it, guys. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, click the like button below. Do not forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.